This audiobook reveals a sacred truth long forgotten. The universe does not speak in noise, it speaks in silence. As you listen, you'll discover that silence is the key to unlocking divine guidance. The answers you've searched for have been whispering all along. Now is the time to hear them. The response. Introduction. Deep within you exists a fundamental truth, ready to break through the barrier of ceaseless thinking. Similar to a clear pool disrupted by countless waves, your mind stirs with constant internal conversation, aspirations, anxieties, critiques, and longings all vying for your notice. Yet the insight you're after has always been present in the gaps between these thoughts, in the deep quiet that exists underneath your mental noise. The cosmos communicates not through language, but via intuitive understanding, in instances of perfect clarity that surface when your mind becomes peaceful. These celestial messages come naturally when you halt the perpetual inner dialogue that has become your faithful companion. The timeless truth appears not through struggle or exertion, but through yielding and openness. You've been conditioned to find answers through relentless questioning, to resolve challenges through continuous examination. But genuine change happens in the reverse direction, through letting go rather than clutching, through hearing rather than talking. The principle of manifestation functions not through the clamor of craving, but through the hush of acceptance. This quiet isn't vacant, it contains boundless possibility. It forms the background on which the cosmos sketches its answer to your innermost wishes. When you calm your mind's relentless babble, you make room for celestial wisdom to penetrate. In this hallowed stillness, you transform into a transparent conduit through which cosmic intelligence can stream. Your path now isn't about incorporating more additional mantras, extra visualizations, supplementary mental techniques. It concerns reduction, eliminating the thought obstacles standing between you and your natural harmony with universal energies. As you practice resting in this meaningful silence, you'll realize that the solutions you pursue have always been there, waiting quietly beneath your conscious awareness. The way ahead lies not in action but in existence, not in expression but in reception, not in pursuit but in permission. The answer you anticipate resides in the realm where your thoughts cease to exist. Part 1. The Noise Within, Awakening from Mental Chatter. Chapter 1. The Endless Monologue. In the heart of an endless desert wandered Walter, a man whose own voice had become both his companion and his prison. From sunrise to sunset, his lips moved ceaselessly, speaking directions to himself, debating which way to turn, arguing with his own choices. Perhaps the east is better. No, west holds more promise. But what if north leads to civilization? His words scattered like grains of sand in the wind, yet brought him no closer to salvation. The universe holds a profound truth that the ancients understood well. Guidance comes not through the noise of your mind, but through the spaces between thoughts. Your constant inner dialogue, though familiar and seemingly helpful, builds invisible walls that block the very wisdom you seek. Like Walter in the desert, you may believe that thinking and speaking your way through life's challenges will reveal the path forward. Yet this endless mental chatter creates a veil between you and the universal intelligence that awaits your attention. When you speak constantly to yourself, you leave no room for the universe to respond. It is as though you stand before a great master, asking questions, but never pausing to hear the answer. This inner noise becomes a closed circuit, recycling old thoughts, familiar fears, and limited perspectives. The divine whispers constantly, but its gentle voice cannot penetrate the fortress of your internal monologue. As the sun began to set on Walter's journey, fate led him to an ancient well. Parched and desperate, he began his usual routine of speaking aloud, listing all the ways he might draw water, complaining about his circumstances. But no matter how he worked the mechanism, not a drop emerged. Exhausted, he finally fell silent. In that moment of surrender, he heard it, the subtle sound of water moving below. As he remained quiet, the well began to flow, offering not only water but also a whispered direction that would lead him to safety. Just as Walter discovered, the answers you seek often arise in the spaces where words fall away. The universe requires no elaborate invocation, only the fertile soil of silence in which to plant its wisdom. When you cease the constant narrative of your thoughts, you open a channel through which divine guidance can flow. Practice. Each day, give yourself 5 minutes of pure silence. Find a quiet space where you can sit undisturbed. As thoughts arise, and they will, resist the urge to narrate or analyze your experience. Let each thought pass like a cloud in the sky, maintaining your sanctuary of silence. In these moments of stillness, you allow the universe to speak in its own language, through intuition, through feeling, through the quiet, knowing that transcends words. Chapter 2. The Cage of Thought. In a sunlit room, Eleanor tends to her beloved caged bird each morning, meticulously cleaning its perch, refilling its water, and whispering gentle words of care. What she fails to see, what you too may have overlooked in your own life, is that the cage door is hung open all along. The bird remains, not from physical constraint, but from a belief woven so deeply into its being that freedom seems impossible. You have lived much like this bird, surrounded by thoughts that appear to define your limits. These thoughts whisper, "You cannot, you should not, you are not enough." Yet these are not iron bars, but gossamer threads of belief, spun from past experiences and repeated stories. When you say, "I am afraid, I am stuck, I am unworthy," you mistake the passing weather of thought for the vast sky of your true nature. Just as Eleanor's bird could step through the open door at any moment, you can step back from identification with these mental patterns. Freedom does not require you to silence your thoughts or wage war against your mind. It asks only that you recognize yourself as the silent witness to these thoughts rather than their helpless subject. As Eleanor finally grew still one morning, she watched in wonder as her bird tentatively approached the open door. In that moment of pure observation, without her usual commentary or concern, the bird spread its wings and took flight. Not through force or strategy, but through the simple recognition that nothing held it back. This mirrors your own journey of awakening. When you cease to struggle against your thoughts, when you simply observe them without becoming entangled in their story, you discover that freedom has always been your natural state. The cage was never locked, it was only your belief in its solidity that made it real. Just as Eleanor's bird needed only to recognize its inherent freedom, you need only to recognize that you are not your thoughts. You are the space in which thoughts arise and dissolve, as vast and boundless as the sky itself. Practice. Take your journal and write down every limiting thought you believe about yourself. After each one, inscribe these words, "This is a thought, not a truth." Watch how the energy shifts as you separate yourself from these thoughts, just as the bird separated itself from its imagined constraints. Feel the lightness that comes with this simple act of recognition. As you write each limiting belief, Notice how it begins to lose its power over you. These thoughts that once felt so solid and real begin to dissolve like morning mist in the sunlight of awareness. Let this practice serve as your daily reminder that you, like the bird, need only recognize your inherent freedom to claim it fully. Chapter 3: You Are Not Your Voice. In a dimly lit studio, Henry sits before his microphone, broadcasting into the empty night. His voice, once heard by thousands, now echoes through vacant airwaves, yet he continues his nightly ritual, speaking endlessly about the day's events, sharing opinions no one receives. The red on-air light flickers weakly, much like the flame of his own relevance, but still he speaks. You too broadcast endlessly into the void of your mind, maintaining a constant stream of commentary about your life. This voice, which you've accepted as your own, speaks with assumed authority about who you are and what you can achieve. Yet like Henry's forgotten broadcast, it reaches no real audience. It simply fills the silence with familiar static. The voice in your mind was not born with you. It emerged gradually, assembled from fragments of past experiences, borrowed opinions, and defensive strategies. When it says, "I can't," it speaks from old wounds. When it declares, "This always happens to me," it recites a script written by previous disappointments. This voice is not your essence. It is merely a collection of learned responses, masquerading as your authentic self. As you identify with this mental narrator, you grant it power it doesn't deserve. Like Henry, speaking night after night to an audience that has moved on, you remain faithful to an inner dialogue that no longer serves you. This voice claims to protect you, to guide you, to know what's best, but it knows only what was, never what could be. In Henry's final broadcast, something extraordinary happened. Mid-sentence, he removed his headset, letting it fall silent beside the microphone. In that moment, the studio's emptiness spoke louder than his words ever had. He heard the gentle hum of equipment, the whisper of wind outside his window, the beating of his own heart, a symphony of life that had always played beneath his monologue. This moment mirrors your own potential awakening. When you step back from the constant internal broadcast, you discover a presence that needs no words. This presence, your true nature, has always been there, listening to the voice but never bound by its limitations. The one who hears the thoughts is not the same as the thoughts themselves. You are not the radio host, but the vast space through which the broadcast travels. In recognizing this, you begin to break free from the hypnotic spell of your inner narrator. Throughout your day, pause and ask yourself, who is speaking and who is listening? This simple inquiry will create distance between you and the mental voice, revealing the peaceful awareness that lies beneath all thought. In this space, you'll discover that true wisdom often comes not through more words, but through the willingness to listen deeply to what life is already saying. Chapter 4: The Echo of Doubt. In the depths of an ancient canyon where red stone walls rise like silent guardians of truth, Margaret stands alone. Her voice carries across the vastness, speaking of dreams and desires, yet what returns to her ears are only the echoes of her deepest fears. "I wish to create," she calls, but hears, "What if you fail?" whispered back. "I long to succeed," she proclaims, only to receive, "Who do you think you are?" in return. You too stand in your own canyon of consciousness, calling out your hopes while listening to the distorted echoes of doubt. The universe, in its infinite wisdom, does not create these fearful returns. You do. Like Margaret, you speak your desires into the void, but your vibration of uncertainty colors every word before it can reach its destination. Yet doubt is not your enemy. It is a messenger, a gentle tap on the shoulder reminding you that you have stepped away from your center of power. When doubt appears, it does not come to condemn. It comes to guide you back to the silence where truth resides. Each moment of uncertainty is an invitation to choose again, to align with the deeper current of knowing that flows beneath the surface of fear. As Margaret learns to sit quietly by the canyon wall, something extraordinary unfolds. In her stillness, the canyon begins to whisper back, not with the voice of fear, but with the pure resonance of her original dream. The echo she now hears carries the clear tone of truth, unmarred by doubt's distortion. For in silence, the canyon reveals its secret. It never changed the message, only her reception of it did. This mirrors the eternal law at work in your own life. The universe never distorts your dreams. It only reflects back the vibration you hold most strongly. When doubt clouds your signal, that same doubt returns amplified. But in the space of silence, in the pure receptivity of being, your truest desires echo back with perfect clarity. Sacred practice, find a quiet space and bring to mind one persistent doubt that haunts your path. Write it down with gentleness, acknowledging its presence without judgment. Place your hand upon your heart, feeling its steady rhythm beneath your palm. Then speak these words of power. Even this is loved. Even this is safe to release. Let the warmth of your hand remind you that all parts of your journey, even doubt, are held in divine care. Repeat this practice whenever doubt arises, allowing each release to clear your channel of reception. Chapter 5. The Mirage of Control. In a land where mountains dance and valleys shift like water, Thomas spreads his maps across weathered stone. His fingers trace lines that change even as he draws them, desperately trying to capture the uncapturable. With each passing day, he adds more details, more measurements, more desperate attempts to pin down reality itself. Yet the more he tries to define this mysterious realm, the more it eludes his grasp. You too have created countless maps in your mind, carefully plotted courses of how things should be. Each morning, you unfold these mental charts, attempting to navigate life through the power of thought and planning. But life, in its infinite wisdom, refuses to be contained by the boundaries you draw. The need to control stems from a deeper truth you have forgotten. The universe operates through surrender, not force. When you attempt to direct every outcome, you actually resist the very flow that would carry you to your highest good. Your mental maps, your carefully constructed plans and expectations become the very barriers that block divine guidance. Consider how a leaf doesn't fight the wind to reach its destination. It releases into the current of air, and in that surrender, finds its perfect landing place. This is the paradox that Thomas discovered. Control is born of fear, while surrender springs from trust. And trust, though seemingly vulnerable, holds more power than all your careful calculations. In the second tale of Thomas, he stands atop the highest peak, watching his collection of maps catch fire in the evening breeze. As the ashes of his life's work drift skyward, something shifts within him. For the first time, he feels the wind not as an enemy to be charted, but as a guide to be followed. And in that moment of release, the wind carries him gently down paths he never could have planned, to the very destination his heart had always sought. Your maps, your need to control outcomes, relationships, and future moments, these are not protection, but prison. Every time you surrender a piece of your need to control, you create space for the universe to reveal a path far greater than any you could have designed. Practice. Take a moment now to write down one situation you're trying to control. Hold the paper in your hands and speak these words aloud. I no longer need to force this. I trust the unfolding. Then, like Thomas's maps in the wind, let it be. Watch how life begins to flow when you release your grip on the outcome. Chapter 6, The Spell of Self-Talk. In a small workshop bathed in morning light, Betty's fingers dance across fabric, each stitch flowing with practiced grace. Yet beneath her conscious movements, a hidden pattern emerges, one that speaks volumes about the silent stories we weave into our lives. You may not realize it, but your words are threads that stitch the fabric of your reality. Each thought you think, each phrase you repeat, becomes a spell cast into the universal loom. These are not mere sounds or syllables. They are vibrations that ripple through the ethereal substance of creation itself. When you speak "not enough" into your field, whether through thoughts, words, or beliefs, you create a garment of lack that the universe must honor. This is not punishment, but pure law. Like Betty's unconscious stitching, your habitual thoughts become invisible patterns that shape every experience you attract. The power of your word extends beyond the realm of thought into the very substance of manifestation. Every "I can't," "I'm not," or "I'll never" becomes a command to the universal intelligence, instructing it to reflect back these very limitations. Yet within this truth lies extraordinary power. For if limiting words can bind, empowering words can liberate. In Betty's awakening, she discovers the hidden pattern in her work. With trembling fingers, she begins the patient work of removing each "not enough" stitch by stitch. In the space that remains, she weaves two simple words: I am. These words, spoken with conscious intent, carry the pure vibration of being itself, unlimited, unbound, and complete. This is your invitation to examine the invisible threads you've been weaving. What words have you stitched into the fabric of your life? What spells have you cast without knowing? The universe awaits your conscious command, ready to reflect back whatever declaration you embroider into the tapestry of your being. Sacred practice. Upon waking each morning, before the world rushes in with its demands and distractions, speak aloud, I am. Complete this phrase with the quality you wish to embody, whether it be abundance, wisdom, love, or strength. Let these words rise from your depths with the power of pure knowing, as natural as breath itself. Feel them vibrate through your entire being, from the crown of your head to the soles of your feet, awakening every cell to this sacred truth. This is not mere affirmation. It is an invocation of your true nature, a declaration to the universe of who you really are. In these quiet moments between sleep and waking, your consciousness is most receptive to the seeds of transformation you plant with these words. Chapter 7, Awakening Through Silence. In a dimly lit workshop filled with the rhythmic sound of countless timepieces, George hunches over his workbench. His skilled hands move with precision among the delicate gears and springs of an ancient chime clock. For 40 years, he has measured life in ticks and tocks, believing that perfect timing comes from constant motion and meticulous adjustment. You, too, have lived by the mechanical belief that progress requires perpetual action. Like George, you've tried to fix what seems broken by doing more, thinking more, planning more. Yet the universe operates on a deeper principle, one that transcends the endless ticking of human effort. When you cease the constant doing, a remarkable transformation occurs. In that space between the ticks, where human striving falls away, divine intelligence flows unimpeded. This is not mere rest or passive waiting, it is sacred receptivity, the natural state where all possibilities exist. As George exhausts himself trying to repair the chime, something extraordinary happens. In a moment of frustrated surrender, he steps back, and the workshop falls silent. In that pristine stillness, the chime suddenly rings out with perfect clarity, not because he fixed it, but because he stopped trying to. This mirrors an eternal truth. What you seek often emerges not through force, but through allowing. The universe's response requires no mechanical intervention, only the courage to be still. When you release the need to constantly adjust, tune, and control, you create space for divine orchestration. In time, George discovers that the chime was never truly broken. It simply required silence to reveal its song. He learns to trust not in his endless tinkering, but in the wisdom that emerges when the workshop grows quiet. Each morning, before touching a single tool, he sits in stillness, listening to the sacred space between seconds. This wisdom beckons to you now. Your answers, your healing, your breakthrough, they already exist in the silence beneath your striving. They wait not for more effort, but for your willingness to be still and receive. Sacred practice. Create a daily appointment with silence, treating it as sacred and non-negotiable as breath itself. Find a space where you won't be disturbed, perhaps a corner of your home before dawn, a garden sanctuary, or any place that calls to your spirit. Set aside all devices, all tasks, all needs to do or fix anything. Release the endless doing that clouds divine wisdom. Simply sit in receptive stillness for a period that feels right to you, whether it be 10 minutes or an hour. Don't try to empty your mind or achieve anything. That very striving blocks the natural flow of grace. Let silence be your teacher, and watch as wisdom naturally emerges in its own perfect timing. Trust that in these moments of sacred stillness, the universe speaks directly to your soul, revealing exactly what you need to know. Chapter 8. Listening to the Invisible. In a dimly lit concert hall, Lillian sits alone at her piano, a silk blindfold covering her eyes. Her fingers hover above the keys as uncertainty fills her heart. She has played this piece 1,000 times, yet tonight feels different, heavier with the weight of solitude. As her hands begin to move, creating the first haunting notes, something shifts in the air around her. You have felt this same hesitation, this same fear of playing your soul's music into what seems like an empty void. Like Lillian, you may believe you stand alone in your journey, that your calls go unanswered, your dreams unheard. Yet this perception stems from listening only with your physical ears, from seeking validation in forms too limited to contain the universe's response. The truth lies deeper than surface silence. Every prayer you've whispered, every intention you've held, every dream you've dared to nurture, all have been received by the infinite intelligence that orchestrates the cosmos. The universe's response flows constantly, like an eternal symphony playing just beyond the range of ordinary hearing. As Lillian continues to play, something miraculous occurs. A harmony emerges, subtle at first, then growing clearer. A violin joins her melody, then a cello, then an entire string section. She realizes, with tears streaming beneath her blindfold, that she was never alone. The orchestra had been there all along, waiting for her to begin. This moment mirrors your own journey. The support you seek already surrounds you. The answers you desire already exist. The universe's response doesn't require your striving or your certainty, only your willingness to play your part, to step into the flow of life with trust. When Lillian finally removes her blindfold, she discovers the hall filled with musicians, all smiling, all playing in perfect harmony with her piece. The revelation brings not shock, but a deep remembrance, a knowing that this connection had always existed, waiting only for her to tune in. Just as Lillian needed only to begin playing to discover her accompaniment, you need only to still your doubts long enough to hear the harmony that surrounds you. The universe's response isn't found in dramatic declarations or sudden miracles. It whispers in synchronicities, flows through intuitive nudges, and reveals itself in the quiet moments when you dare to trust. Practice inner listening. Place your hand over your heart and ask, "What do I feel drawn toward today?" Trust the first whisper. That gentle nudge of intuition that rises before doubt can cloud your perception. This simple ritual opens a channel to the wisdom that has always been playing alongside your life's melody, waiting patiently for you to acknowledge its presence. Like a radio tuning to the perfect frequency, your heart knows which direction will harmonize with your highest good. The universe speaks not in shouts but in subtle impressions that resonate with your deepest truth. Chapter 9. When the winds cease, the voice appears. Out on the vast ocean, where waves rise like mountains and fall like valleys, Frank stands at the helm of his small vessel, screaming commands into the howling wind. His voice grows hoarse as he battles against nature's fury, believing that through sheer force of will he can bend the storm to his desires. You too have stood at the helm of your life, shouting into the tempest of circumstance, believing that control comes through resistance. Yet the ancient wisdom whispers of a different way, one that requires not the assertion of will but its surrender. When you fight against life's current, you exhaust your spirit and cloud your vision. The universe speaks in whispers, not shouts. Its guidance cannot penetrate the noise of your resistance. Like Frank, you may believe that safety lies in constant vigilance, in maintaining an iron grip on the wheel. But true safety, true power, emerges when you release your grip and allow a higher intelligence to guide your course. As the storm intensifies, Frank's strength begins to fade. In this moment of exhaustion, something shifts within him. He stops fighting. His hands loosen on the wheel. His voice falls silent. And in that sacred surrender, the most extraordinary thing occurs. The sea begins to calm. This mirrors the great paradox of spiritual awakening. The less you resist, the more power flows through you. When Frank finally silences his voice, when the last echo of his commands fades into the night, he hears something he couldn't before, a clear, gentle voice carrying across the now quiet waters, guiding him toward safe harbor. This voice has always been there, waiting beneath the surface of your own storms. It holds the coordinates to your destiny, the answers to your deepest questions. But like a radio signal obscured by static, it cannot be heard through the noise of mental resistance. Practice. Tonight, as you prepare for sleep, take 5 conscious breaths in complete silence. Let each breath carry away the day's mental static. Then, with the quietness of a still sea, ask simply, "What is trying to come through me now?" Don't grasp for immediate answers. Let the question float like a message in a bottle on calm waters. Trust that the response will arrive with tomorrow's tide, speaking through the language of inspiration, coincidence, or inner knowing. In this sacred moment between waking and dreaming, you create a vessel for divine wisdom to enter. Each breath becomes a gateway, each moment of silence an invitation for the universe to speak its truth through you. As you drift toward sleep, maintain that gentle awareness, not seeking, not straining, but remaining softly receptive to the whispers of your higher self. The ancient mystics knew this twilight state held special power, for it is here in the space between thoughts that the deepest revelations often emerge. This practice, performed faithfully, will gradually attune your inner ear to the subtle frequencies of universal wisdom. Like a radio slowly coming into perfect alignment with its signal, you will find yourself naturally resonating with the guidance that has always been present, waiting patiently for you to become still enough to receive it. Chapter 10. The Portal Opens. In the dimly lit corridors of an ancient library, Helen moved between towering shelves, her fingers tracing the spines of countless books. Each volume promised answers, yet after decades of searching, the truth she sought remained elusive. Day after day, she scoured texts, made notes, created systems, believing that somewhere in these chapters lay the key to understanding. You too have searched endlessly, believing that wisdom must be pursued, caught, conquered. Yet the universe holds a gentler truth. What you seek is seeking you. When Helen finally sat down, exhausted from her endless quest, she noticed something extraordinary. In the space between her thoughts, in the silence between her searching, a soft golden light emerged from behind a shelf she'd passed 1,000 times before. There, hidden in plain sight, stood an ornate doorway she'd never seen. This doorway represents the threshold between seeking and finding, between effort and grace. It appears not through striving, but through stillness. The more Helen tried to force the door open, the more it seemed to fade. Only when she stepped back, released her urgency, and allowed herself to simply be present, did the door begin to open of its own accord. What lay beyond that threshold was not what she expected to find. It was what had been waiting to find her. The room beyond held no books, no answers, no complex systems of knowledge. Instead, it contained a single mirror that reflected not her physical form, but the light of her own awareness. This sacred moment mirrors your own journey. The answers you seek are not hidden in endless doing, but in the space of being. When Helen ceased her searching, what she truly needed revealed itself naturally, effortlessly, as though it had been waiting all along for her to become still enough to receive it. The practice. Find a quiet moment and write a letter to the universe. Pour your heart onto the page, expressing your deepest gratitude for all that is, the breath in your lungs, the ground beneath your feet, the infinite possibilities that surround you. Write without expectation, without asking for anything in return. Let your words flow naturally, like water finding its path to the sea. Then sit in sacred silence, breathing slowly and deeply, allowing yourself to be found by what has always been seeking you. In this stillness, feel the presence of ancient wisdom that has waited patiently through the ages for this very moment of connection with you. Part 2. The stillness between, deepening into spiritual alignment. Chapter 11. The Sacred Pause. In the heart of a grand theater, Clara stood beneath the spotlights, her next line vanishing like morning mist. The audience held their breath, waiting. In that suspended moment, something extraordinary occurred, not through action but through pure presence. You have been taught that empty spaces must be filled, that silence signals failure, that stillness means losing your way. Yet within every pause lies a power you have yet to fully embrace. When you stand at the edge of speech, caught between what was and what will be, you touch the eternal present, where all possibilities gather. This space, which the world labels as hesitation, carries the seed of your next emergence. Clara's moment of forgetting became a gateway. As she stood in that sacred stillness, the theater transformed. The audience leaned forward, drawn not by words, but by the magnetic force of pure presence. In that pause, she embodied something greater than any scripted line could convey. She became a vessel for the unspoken. This mirrors the universe's way. In the space between your thoughts, between your actions, between your words, there lies a gathering force. Like the moment before dawn, when night has not yet yielded but morning already stirs, these pauses are pregnant with potential. Later that evening, after the final curtain, Clara discovered that her moment of silence had moved the audience to tears. Not because of what she did, but because of what she allowed. In her stillness, she had created space for something greater to enter. You too stand on life's stage, often rushing to fill every moment with action or words. Yet the universe whispers its truths in the spaces between, in the pause before you speak, in the breath before you move, in the silence before you decide. These are not empty spaces to be feared or filled, but sacred thresholds where spirit gathers its power. Each pause offers you the chance to align with a wisdom greater than your own planning. The practice: select one moment in your day, perhaps before an important conversation, during a decision, or in the midst of activity. Stop completely. Draw a full conscious breath into your being. Silently speak these words: I trust the sacred pause. Let the next movement arise not from habit or haste, but from the gathered wisdom of that holy stillness. Watch as your next step emerges with grace and perfect timing. Chapter 12: Presence is Power. In the early morning light, Samuel stood at the edge of a misty valley, his camera hanging unused at his side. For years he had chased the perfect shot, planning each detail, calculating every angle. Yet his most breathtaking images emerged when he forgot himself entirely. You have learned to orchestrate life, to position yourself just so, believing that control leads to creation. But true creative power flows not from manipulation, but from emergence, when you dissolve into the eternal now. In those rare moments when you release the grip of planning, something extraordinary occurs. Your frequency shifts from seeking to seeing, from forcing to flowing. It is here, in complete presence, that you become most visible to the universe. Samuel discovered this truth one autumn morning. Standing before a simple tree, he noticed how his breath synchronized with the swaying leaves. In that moment of pure attention, his awareness expanded beyond the viewfinder. The camera became not a tool, but a witness to the communion between his soul and the scene before him. The resulting image captured not just light and form, but the very essence of that holy instant. Later, reviewing his work, Samuel noticed a pattern. His most powerful photographs weren't products of careful arrangement. They were born in moments of complete absorption, when he forgot he was a photographer and became pure seeing himself. This mirrors the universe's way of working through you. When you step aside from the constant orchestration of life, you enter a state of receptivity that magnetizes magic. Your presence becomes a lens through which the divine can focus its light. Months later, Samuel found himself before an ordinary street corner. No spectacular sunrise, no dramatic landscape, just the simple play of shadow and light on a weathered wall. Yet in his state of pure presence, this mundane scene revealed itself as a gateway to the infinite. The photograph he took that day spoke not of technique, but of transcendence. Your presence is not just attention, it is attunement. When you fully arrive in the now, you become a tuning fork, vibrating in harmony with the universe itself. This is the state from which all true creation flows. The practice. As each hour strikes, Pause in your activities. Feel the weight of your body, the touch of air on your skin, the rhythm of your breath. Whisper softly, "I am here." Let these words be not an affirmation but a recognition of your essential presence. In this simple act of awareness, you open the channel through which the universe flows. Chapter 13. Detaching from the outcome. In a sunlit garden between ancient walls, Annie tended her precious flowers. Each morning she would rush to check a particular pot containing seeds of the midnight orchid, a bloom so rare that its appearance was said to bring extraordinary fortune. Day after day she would lean close to the soil, searching for any sign of growth, her anticipation mounting with each passing moment. You too know this feeling, the burning desire to see evidence of your dreams taking root. Like Annie, you may find yourself constantly checking, measuring, evaluating whether your desires are manifesting. Yet this very vigilance often creates resistance in the universal flow. When you fixate on outcomes, you unknowingly broadcast a frequency of doubt into the cosmic field. Each anxious glance at the soil carries a subtle message. I don't trust you're really growing. This energy of mistrust becomes a barrier between your desire and its natural unfoldment. The universe operates through perfect timing, a divine orchestration that flows best when unobserved. Just as a watched pot never boils, a watched seed struggles to sprout under the weight of expectation. Your role is not to force the bloom, but to create the conditions for growth and then step back in faith. One day, exhausted from her vigilance, Annie turned her attention to her other flowers. She lost herself in the simple joy of tending roses and lilies, forgetting for a moment about the precious seeds she'd planted. It was then, in the space of her surrender, that the midnight orchid chose to emerge, its petals unfurling in perfect timing. This mirrors a profound truth about manifestation. Detachment is not about ceasing to care, but about trusting so deeply that you no longer need proof. When you release the need to control the timeline of your desires, you allow the universe to work its magic unhindered. Sacred practice. Take a piece of paper and write down one desire that you've been anxiously awaiting. Feel the full intensity of your wanting as you write, allowing yourself to experience both the yearning and the joy of anticipation. Then, with deliberate trust, fold the paper and place it in a special spot, perhaps beneath a crystal, in a sacred box, or within the chapters of a cherished book. For the next 7 days, live as though your desire is already in motion, not through forced visualization, but through genuine trust in its inevitable arrival. Let the universe handle the how and when, while you simply tend to the garden of your present moment. Notice how this practice of conscious surrender creates space for miracles to unfold naturally, like flowers blooming in their perfect season. Each time doubt attempts to surface, return to this state of peaceful knowing, understanding that your desire is already taking form in the invisible realm. Before we get into the next chapter, you can download a free ebook version of this audiobook using the link in the pinned comment below this video. Chapter 14. The universe interprets energy, not words. In a dimly lit broadcast station, Paul hunched over his equipment, his voice growing hoarse from shouting into a damaged microphone. Night after night he increased his volume, believing that if he could just speak loudly enough, his message would finally reach its destination. The harder he tried, the more frustrated he became, unaware that the very thing preventing transmission was his forceful approach. You may recognize yourself in Paul's struggle. How often have you raised your voice to the universe, thinking that repetition or intensity would make your desires manifest faster? Yet the cosmic frequency response is not to the volume of your requests, but to the vibration you emanate. The universe operates through resonance, not rhetoric. When you speak to it through desperate energy, you create interference in the very signal you wish to send. Your thoughts and words are secondary to the electromagnetic field your being generates, a field shaped by your emotional state, your level of trust, and your degree of alignment. Consider how a crystal wine glass responds not to shouting, but to the perfect resonant frequency. Similarly, the universe attunes itself to your energetic signature, not your verbal declarations. Your true broadcast is happening silently, continuously, through the quality of your presence. In time, Paul discovered that when he stopped forcing and instead played soft music through the system, his signal carried perfectly. The gentler vibration aligned with the natural frequency of transmission, allowing his message to flow unimpeded. This mirrors an eternal truth. The universe responds most powerfully to the silent song of your authentic state. When you shift from pushing to allowing, from demanding to harmonizing, you naturally align with the frequency of manifestation. Practice. As each day draws to a close, find a quiet moment and ask yourself, what did I radiate today? Write down the honest answer, noting the quality of energy you transmitted into the field. Let this awareness guide you in tuning your frequency for tomorrow. Notice not just your words and actions, but the subtle vibrations that flowed from your being, the unspoken messages carried in your smile, your posture, your presence. Were you broadcasting peace or tension, abundance or scarcity, love or fear? This simple evening reflection will gradually attune you to the profound truth that your energetic signature shapes the very fabric of your reality. Chapter 15, Clear Intentions, Quiet Mind. In her dimly lit workshop, Marjorie spread dozens of sketches across her workbench, each design competing for her attention. Her hands trembled slightly as she reached for different gemstones, her mind racing between possibilities. Should the pendant be oval or circular? Would sapphire or emerald better suit her vision? As she oscillated between choices, each new idea clouded the previous one, until all clarity dissolved into confusion. You have known this state of mental overcrowding, where multiple desires create static in your field of creation. When too many wishes vie for attention, none receive the full power of your creative force. This scattering of energy dilutes the magnetic pull that manifestation requires. The universe responds not to the quantity of your desires, but to the clarity of your signal. Just as a radio can only tune to one station at a time for clear reception, your creative force flows most powerfully when channeled through a single pure intention. As Marjorie sat amidst her scattered designs, she felt an inner prompt to stop. Closing her eyes, she allowed her breathing to slow, letting the mental noise subside. In that sacred stillness, one image arose with crystal clarity, a design so pure and complete that it seemed to have always existed, waiting to be discovered rather than created. With unwavering focus on this single vision, her hands moved with certainty. Each element found its perfect place, guided not by mental debate but by inner knowing. The resulting necklace carried a power that her previous works had lacked, the power of undiluted intention. This reveals a fundamental truth. Clarity is magnetic. When you allow your mind to settle, when you release the need to consider every possibility, you create space for divine inspiration to emerge. One clear intention, held in pure focus, becomes a beacon that draws forth its physical manifestation. Practice. Find a quiet space and light a candle. Let its flame remind you of the power of focused energy, of intention distilled to its purest form. Sit in stillness and ask simply, "What do I really want?" Allow all secondary desires to fall away like autumn leaves drifting to earth. Wait in sacred silence for one image or feeling to emerge with pristine clarity. When it appears, you will know it with certainty. It will resonate in the depths of your being. Write only that singular vision, letting all else fade into shadow. Let its crystalline clarity become your point of magnetic attraction, drawing forth its manifestation from the infinite field of possibility. Chapter 16. Emotion is the universe's language. In a grand concert hall, Leon moved methodically between pianos, his tuning fork striking perfect pitch after perfect pitch. For 30 years, he had calibrated countless instruments to mathematical precision, yet something puzzled him. Some performances, despite technical perfection, left audiences unmoved. Others, though imperfect, brought listeners to tears. You too have noticed this mystery in your own life. When your words and actions align perfectly with what you think you should do, yet fail to manifest what you desire, the universe responds not to precision but to resonance. Watch how a child dances, not with technique but with pure joy. Observe how a lover speaks, not with calculated words, but with genuine feeling. This is the language that moves mountains, that parts seas, that awakens the sleeping forces of creation. Leon sat at a piano one evening after the audience had gone. His tuning fork lay forgotten beside him. Instead of seeking perfect pitch, he closed his eyes and allowed his hands to express what lived in his heart. The music that emerged wasn't technically flawless, yet it carried something far more valuable: truth. The cleaning staff, who had been gathering their supplies to leave, stopped in their tracks. One by one they filled the empty seats, drawn by something beyond the notes themselves. When Leon finished playing, he opened his eyes to find every person standing moved to tears by what they had felt through his music. You see, the universe doesn't respond to your words, your plans, or even your actions. It responds to your feeling state. When you align your emotional frequency with what you desire, you become a tuning fork for manifestation. The universe cannot help but respond to authentic feeling, for feeling is the purest form of prayer. Sacred practice. Choose one desire that lives deep within your heart, something that stirs your soul when you think of it. Find a quiet, sacred space where you won't be disturbed, a sanctuary where you can commune with the infinite. Close your eyes and spend 5 minutes feeling, not visualizing or thinking about, but purely feeling this desire as if it's already manifested in your life. Let every cell of your body fill with the emotion of having received what you long for. Feel the joy, the gratitude, the peace that comes with knowing it is yours. Do this daily, allowing feeling to lead the way, trusting in the ancient wisdom that emotion is the bridge between thought and manifestation. This is how you tune yourself to the frequency of manifestation, how you become one with the creative force of the universe itself. Chapter 17. The Art of Allowing. In a small village among rolling hills, Ruth tended her garden with relentless devotion. Each morning, she would rush to her beloved plants, watering can in hand, determined to nurture them into abundant growth. Yet despite her constant attention, or perhaps because of it, her flowers drooped, their stems heavy with excess moisture, their roots drowning in her good intentions. You too may recognize this pattern in your own life. How often have you poured endless energy into manifesting your desires, only to find yourself exhausted, with your dreams seemingly further away? The universe operates on a principle far more subtle than force. It responds to the gentle art of allowing. When you clutch too tightly to what you wish to grow, you restrict its natural expansion. Like Ruth's overwatered garden, your desires need space to breathe, to reach toward the light in their own time, in their own way. Ruth discovered this truth one afternoon when illness confined her to bed for 3 days. Unable to tend her garden, she watched through her window as nature took its course. The soil dried slightly, allowing oxygen to reach the roots. The plants, no longer drowning in attention, began to straighten and strengthen. This revelation transformed Ruth's approach. She learned to step back, to trust the inherent wisdom of growth. Instead of flooding her garden daily, she observed, waited, and tended only when truly needed. Her garden responded with unprecedented vitality, not because she had worked harder, but because she had allowed more. Witness how a flower opens, not through force, but through the gentle surrender to its own nature. The universe operates with this same wisdom. Your manifestations unfold not through constant pushing, but through balanced allowing. Sacred practice. Each morning stand in a quiet space, a sacred corner of your home, or beneath the open sky, and speak these words with quiet certainty. I allow what is mine to find me. Feel these words resonating through your being, acknowledging the divine order that governs all things. Then engage in an activity that brings you pure joy. Paint with abandon. Dance as though no one is watching. Walk mindfully in nature, or simply sit in peaceful contentment. Let this practice become your daily ritual, your offering to the universe, a demonstration of your unwavering trust in its perfect timing. Through this gentle surrender, you align yourself with the cosmic flow, opening pathways for abundance to reach you naturally and effortlessly. Chapter 18. Receive without reaching. Along the misty shores of an ancient lake, Arthur stood at dawn, his fishing line cast far into the distance. Day after day he hurled his line toward the horizon, believing the greatest catch must lie in the furthest waters. His arms ached from the constant reaching, yet his nets remained empty. You, like Arthur, may have fallen into the pattern of reaching ever outward for your desires. The further you stretch, the more elusive your dreams appear, until exhaustion settles into your bones. But the universe whispers a different truth. What you seek is often nearest to where you stand. When your energy radiates desperation and strain, it creates ripples that push away the very abundance you wish to attract. The law of attraction responds not to the distance of your reach, but to the quality of your presence. One morning, as fatigue finally overcame his determination, Arthur's line slipped from his grasp, landing mere feet from his boat. In that moment of accidental surrender, the waters stirred with life. His net filled with fish, more than he had seen in months of casting far and wide. This simple shift, from grasping to allowing, opened Arthur to receive what had always been within his reach. The fish had not suddenly appeared. They had always been there, waiting for the stillness of his presence rather than the turbulence of his striving. The universe operates through this same principle in every aspect of your life. When you cease the endless reaching, when you settle into the quiet confidence of knowing, you create a magnetic field that naturally draws your desires toward you. Sit now with your palms open upon your lap. Breathe deeply and whisper these words. I do not need to reach. I received it. Let this mantra remind you that what is meant for you will find you in the space of your surrender. This practice, performed daily, will gradually transform your energy from one of desperate seeking to peaceful receiving. The universe responds not to the force of your grasp, but to the openness of your heart. As you cultivate this receptive state, you'll notice subtle shifts in how opportunities and blessings flow into your life. Where once you might have strained and struggled, you'll find yourself guided effortlessly toward that which serves your highest good. The ancient mystics understood this profound truth, that true abundance comes not through ceaseless pursuit, but through the art of sacred surrender. Chapter 19, Rituals of Receptivity. In a small cottage among flowering gardens, Estelle sat alone each evening, her weathered hands folded in her lap. After decades of teaching others, she found herself yearning for guidance in her own life. Questions about her next chapter swirled endlessly in her mind, yet answers remained distant and unclear. One evening, as autumn winds rustled through falling leaves, she felt drawn to light a single candle and place it by her window. The simple act brought an unexpected peace. Without planning or purpose, she returned to this quiet ritual night after night, watching the flame dance against darkened glass. You too hold within you this innate wisdom, the understanding that sacred space creates sacred reception. When you establish a consistent point of connection with the universe, you signal your readiness to receive. This is not about complex ceremonies or elaborate practice. It is about creating a moment where your soul can breathe, where divine wisdom can enter. As weeks passed, Estelle noticed something shifting. The clarity she had long sought began flowing naturally into her awareness. Solutions appeared not through struggle, but through stillness. Her evening ritual had become a gateway, not through the candle's flame, but through her own consistent presence. The universe responds to your willingness to pause, to create space, to show up with intention. When you establish a daily practice of receptivity, you align your energy with the natural flow of divine guidance. This is not about performing actions to earn answers. It is about creating conditions where wisdom can arise unobstructed. One evening, as Estelle lit her candle, she realized the ritual itself had never been the source of her clarity. The flame had simply marked her transition from doing to being, from seeking to receiving. In that recognition, her practice deepened from routine to reverence. Your own receiving ritual need not mirror another's. It may be a morning cup of tea held in mindful silence, a walk beneath open skies, or a moment of stillness before sleep. What matters is not the form, but the feeling, the conscious choice to say, "I am ready." Set aside a moment each day for your ritual of reception. Let it be simple, sacred, and consistent. As you enter this practice, whisper softly, "I am ready." Then rest in the knowledge that the universe has heard your invitation. Feel the subtle shift as your energy aligns with the eternal flow of wisdom that surrounds you. This daily dedication becomes a bridge between your conscious mind and the infinite source of all knowledge, creating a sanctuary where divine guidance can reach you unimpeded. Trust that in these moments of sacred surrender, you are participating in an ancient tradition of seekers who have discovered that true wisdom arrives not through force, but through the grace of receptivity. Chapter 20. Surrender is Strength. High in the misted peaks where few dare venture, Isaac stood before an impossible chasm. For 7 days he had searched for a way across, his determination matching the harsh winds that whipped around him. Each morning, he rose with new strategies, new angles of approach, and each evening he retreated to his camp, defeated by the vastness before him. You too have faced such chasms in your journey, moments when all your strength, all your clever planning, all your forceful will seems to crash against an immovable reality. Like Isaac, you may have exhausted every method you know only to find yourself no closer to your goal. On the 8th morning, something within Isaac broke. Not his spirit, but his resistance. As the first light touched the mountain peaks, he lay back against the cold stone, his pack beside him, and simply stopped. No more calculations, no more attempts, no more fighting against what was. This surrender was not defeat, it was a sacred release. In releasing his grip on how things must be, Isaac allowed something greater to emerge. As dawn's golden light spilled across the peaks, it revealed what had been there all along. A natural bridge, perfectly formed, hidden in the shadows of his striving. When you cease the endless reaching, pushing, and forcing, you create space for the universe to reveal its perfect solution. Your surrender is not weakness, it is stepping aside so grace can enter. What force cannot accomplish, acceptance makes possible. Later, as Isaac crossed the bridge that had awaited his stillness, he understood. The path had never required his strength, only his trust. The very thing he had fought to create had existed all along, veiled by his own effort. This truth awaits you now. What you seek is seeking you, but it cannot reach you through the noise of struggle. It arrives in the silence of surrender, in the space where doing becomes being, where effort transforms into allowance. When you find yourself at the edge of your own chasm, remember, power often wears the face of peace. The bridge you seek may only become visible when you lay down your strategies and trust in something greater than your own strength. Practice. At the moment of frustration, pause and say, I release my grip. What I seek is seeking me. Then breathe deeply and move on. Let your exhale carry away the weight of effort, the burden of forcing outcomes. In this sacred space of surrender, feel how the universe conspires to meet you halfway. Know that your desires are already in motion, drawn to you by the magnetic force of allowance. Trust that what is meant for you cannot pass you by. It simply awaits your willingness to receive. Part 3, The Divine Dialogue, Mastery Through Receiving. Chapter 21, Manifesting from Silence. In the soft light of dawn, Evelyn sat before her easel, surrounded by crumpled sketches and discarded brushes. For months she had pursued inspiration like a hunter chasing shadows, filling notebook after notebook with frenzied attempts to capture the perfect vision. You know this pursuit well, the endless seeking, the desperate grasp for creativity, the belief that through sheer effort you can summon what your heart desires. Yet in this ceaseless chase, you may have overlooked a profound truth. Inspiration does not arrive through force, but through surrender. As the morning sun touched Evelyn's blank canvas, something shifted within her. Rather than reaching for her pencils or forcing another sketch, she simply sat. In that moment of pure receptivity, she discovered what centuries of artists, mystics, and creators have known. True vision emerges from the void. In stillness, Evelyn felt a gentle stirring, not in her mind, but in her very being. Without thought or plan, her hands lifted the brush. Colors flowed onto the canvas, each stroke arising not from mental effort, but from a deeper well of knowing. She had become not the creator, but the created through which creation flowed. This is the sacred alchemy that occurs when you step back from the noise of trying and enter the silence of being. The universe does not require your endless effort. It awaits your quiet attention. In this space of receptive stillness, you become not the doer, but the instrument through which divine inspiration plays its melody. Later, as Evelyn watched her hands move across the canvas with a wisdom beyond thought, she understood. Art, like all creation, is not something to be chased, but something to be allowed. The masterpiece already exists in the realm of spirit, waiting only for a still heart through which to emerge. Practice, begin your morning in complete stillness. Before checking your phone or speaking a single word, sit in sacred silence and whisper to the universe, "What wants to be born through me today?" Let this question float into the infinite space around you, trusting that divine wisdom already holds the answer. In these precious moments between sleep and waking, your spirit is most receptive to the subtle whispers of creation. Feel how your consciousness hovers between worlds, still touched by the mysteries of dreams yet slowly awakening to earthly awareness. This liminal space holds profound power. It is here, in this threshold between realms, that inspiration flows most freely. Your mind, not yet cluttered with the day's concerns, remains open like an empty vessel, ready to receive the sacred guidance that awaits. Simply rest in this gentle alertness, allowing the universe to plant its seeds of possibility within your receptive heart. Chapter 22. You were always being answered. In a small post office at the edge of town, Calvin kept a wooden box filled with letters that had been returned to sender. Each evening, after his route was complete, he would unfold these yellowing chapters and read his own desperate pleas for guidance, connection, and answers. Year after year, he gathered these unopened prayers like fallen leaves, never seeing the forest of responses growing all around him. You too may be holding on to unanswered letters of your own, wishes whispered into the night, dreams released like doves into the wind, questions carved into the silence of your heart. Yet while you wait for responses in expected forms, the universe weaves its answers into the fabric of your daily life. The divine speaks in a language far more subtle than words on paper. It communicates through the warmth of a stranger's smile just when your spirit feels cold, through the perfect song playing on the radio when you need its message most, through the book that falls open to exactly the page your soul requires. Calvin would wave to Mrs. Thompson each morning as she tended her garden, never recognizing that her consistent presence was the stability he had begged for in his letters. He would pause to watch the spring blossoms unfold, not seeing that their annual renewal was the hope he had requested. The universe had been responding all along, painting its answers across the canvas of his everyday experience. One autumn afternoon, while organizing his shelves, Calvin discovered an old book he'd purchased years ago but never opened. As he lifted it, a small envelope fluttered to the floor. A response he'd written to himself long ago, forgotten between the chapters. In that moment he understood. Sometimes the answers we seek are already in our possession, waiting patiently for us to be ready to receive them. Every synchronicity is a letter from the universe. Every coincidence carries a message. The responses you seek may not arrive in envelopes marked with your name, but they are being delivered nonetheless, through chance encounters, through moments of unexpected beauty, through the quiet whispers of intuition. Sacred practice. Find a quiet moment and reflect on 3 recent coincidences in your life. Close your eyes and ask yourself, was that a reply? Let your inner knowing speak. Trust the first sense that arises, for it carries the truth your soul recognizes. The universe's mailbox is never empty. It is you who must learn to read its special delivery. Write down these synchronicities in your journal, noting the circumstances surrounding them and the emotions they stirred within you. Consider how each event might be answering a question you've been holding in your heart, even if you hadn't voiced it aloud. Remember that divine messages often come wrapped in the ordinary, waiting for eyes that are ready to see beyond the surface. Through this practice of conscious awareness, you begin to decode the sacred language of synchronicity that has always been speaking to you. Chapter 23, Life as Oracle. In a quaint bookstore between modern buildings, Dorothy arranged her shelves not by genre or author, but by the whispers of intuition that guided her hands each morning. What began as a simple organizing system slowly revealed itself as something far more mysterious, a living dialogue between her inner world and the outer reality she inhabited. You may believe your daily encounters are random, disconnected events floating through time without pattern or purpose. Yet within every moment, every interaction, every seemingly chance occurrence, the universe weaves an intricate tapestry of meaning designed specifically for your awakening. Watch as the elderly man asks for a book about forgiveness on the very day you struggle to release an old wound. Notice how the young woman searching for courage mirrors your own hidden fears. Observe how the child's innocent question about stars reflects your deep wonderings about destiny. These are not coincidences. They are conversations. Dorothy began to see how each customer brought not just their reading preferences, but also carried messages meant precisely for her current life situation. The woman seeking books about new beginnings appeared just as Dorothy contemplated a major change. The man requesting texts about healing arrived during her own period of recovery. The universe was speaking through every interaction, every choice, every seemingly mundane moment of her day. In the quiet hours between customers, Dorothy learned to let the world become her mirror. She stopped trying to force meaning into events and instead allowed their natural significance to unfold. Peace returned not because circumstances changed, but because she recognized the sacred dialogue happening in plain sight. The universe speaks not only through dramatic signs or profound revelations, but through the gentle flow of daily life. Each moment carries a message. Each encounter holds a lesson. Each experience offers guidance. If only you attune yourself to this constant conversation. Sacred practice. As the day draws to a close, find a quiet moment with your journal. Ask yourself with genuine curiosity, what did life try to tell me today? Write down whatever arises, without analyzing or judging. Let the day's events speak their truth through your pen. This practice opens the channel between your conscious mind and the universe's constant communication. Notice the subtle whispers that emerged in chance encounters, the wisdom hidden in apparent obstacles, the guidance offered through fleeting thoughts and feelings. Trust that each word flowing onto the page carries significance even if its deeper meaning isn't immediately clear. Through this sacred dialogue with your experiences, you strengthen your ability to recognize and receive the universe's messages in real time, transforming each day into a living meditation on life's eternal teachings. Chapter 24, Signs, Symbols, and Synchronicity. In a small workshop filled with the gentle ticking of timepieces, Louis sat surrounded by the precise machinery he had maintained for decades. Yet lately, his attention had shifted from the mechanical rhythms to a different kind of pattern, one that spoke in whispers rather than clicks. You live in a universe that constantly reaches toward you, speaking through symbols and synchronicities that your logical mind might dismiss. Yet these signs carry messages meant specifically for your journey, appearing with perfect timing when you need them most. The language of the universe flows through repeating numbers catching your eye, dreams that linger in morning light, and melodies that answer questions you haven't voiced aloud. These are not random occurrences. They are sacred responses to the deepest stirrings of your soul. When Louis began noticing the same sequence of numbers appearing everywhere, on clocks, receipts, license plates, he initially attributed it to his watchmaker's heightened awareness of time. But as cardinals appeared outside his window during moments of doubt and familiar songs played at precisely meaningful moments, he could no longer deny the pattern of divine communication unfolding before him. The universe speaks not in shouts but in subtle impressions that bypass the analytical mind and resonate directly with your intuitive knowing. It communicates through the poetry of existence, through synchronicities that cannot be explained but can be deeply felt. In his second encounter with these messages, Louis finally surrendered his need to understand and simply whispered, "I'm listening." In that moment of acceptance, the signs grew clearer, more frequent, as though his acknowledgement had opened a channel of divine dialogue that had always been waiting for his recognition. Know this truth: synchronicity is not coincidence. It is the universe engaged in constant conversation with your soul, offering guidance through a language more ancient than words. These signs appear not to test your faith, but to remind you of the invisible thread that connects all moments of your existence to divine intelligence. Sacred practice. Today, speak to the universe with the clarity of a child. Ask for a specific sign, perhaps a blue butterfly, a white feather, or a song you haven't heard in years. Then release your request completely, letting it float away like a leaf on a gentle stream. Do not search frantically or force meaning where there is none. The divine speaks in whispers, not shouts, and its messages arrive precisely when your soul is ready to receive them. Simply remain aware and record what appears in the hours and days that follow. Notice not just the sign itself, but the circumstances of its arrival, for often the timing carries as much significance as the symbol. Trust that what comes is exactly what you need to receive, even if its meaning isn't immediately clear. The universe's wisdom often reveals itself gradually, like a flower slowly opening its petals to the morning sun. Chapter 25, Becoming the Silence. In a classroom bathed in morning light, Teresa stood quietly as her students filed in. Without a word, without raised hands or stern glances, she simply remained present, fully, deeply present. One by one, the children settled, their usual chaos dissolving into unexpected calm. You have spent years seeking stillness, yet now comes the moment to become it. The universe calls you not just to practice peace, but to embody it so completely that your mere presence transforms the energy around you. When you align with the frequency of pure being, words become secondary. Your energy speaks first, carrying messages deeper than language could express. This is not about controlling others or manufacturing an appearance of serenity. It is about allowing the natural radiance of your true self to emerge. In her journey of discovery, Teresa noticed that her most powerful teaching moments came not from carefully planned lessons, but from the quality of her presence. When she released the need to manage every moment, her classroom transformed into a sanctuary of natural order and authentic learning. Later that year, during a particularly challenging day, Teresa chose not to raise her voice or impose structure. Instead, she sat at her desk, closed her eyes briefly, and centered herself in pure awareness. The shift was immediate, like a tuning fork striking the perfect note. Her inner stillness rippled outward, touching each young soul in the room. You too carry this power. Your presence, when anchored in genuine stillness, becomes a silent invitation for others to find their own center. This is not a technique to master, but a truth to remember. You are already the peace you seek to create. Sacred practice. Choose 1 hour today to practice intentional stillness. Reduce your words to only what is necessary, speaking with purpose rather than habit. Let your movements become deliberate and minimal. each gesture carrying the weight of conscious choice. Instead of trying to influence your environment, simply be present within it, allowing the natural rhythm of life to flow undisturbed around you. Notice how your energy speaks without sound, transforms without touch, creating ripples of peace in the ethereal fabric of existence. Let your very being become the message, a living testament to the power of presence. In this sacred hour, you become both witness and catalyst, demonstrating that the most profound transformations often arise from the quietest moments. As you embody this stillness, watch how others naturally align with your frequency, like moths drawn to a gentle flame. Your tranquil presence creates an invisible sanctuary, a field of possibility where healing and transformation unfold without effort or strain. This is the ancient art of becoming a lighthouse, not by shouting into the darkness, but by standing firm in your inner radiance. Chapter 26. Your life is the prayer. In a small town where words once echoed from church bells, John stood before his congregation one Sunday morning. As sunlight filtered through stained glass, he gazed at the familiar faces that had listened to countless sermons about love, compassion, and divine connection. In that moment, he realized that the truest sermon would never be spoken. You now approach the deepest mystery of manifestation. Your life itself becomes the prayer. Every action, every breath, every silent moment of presence speaks louder than any petition ever could. The universe reads not your words, but the living vibration of your being. When you align your energy with what you seek, you no longer need to ask. Your very presence becomes the request, and your way of moving through the world becomes the invocation. This is not about performing good deeds or showing others your spiritual nature. It is about embodying the frequency of what you wish to experience. John discovered this truth as he stepped away from his pulpit and into the quiet streets of his community. Where once he spoke of kindness, he now offered it freely, without announcement or expectation. Where he once preached of peace, he now carried it in his presence, touching lives through simple moments of genuine connection. The response from the universe came not in thunderous revelation, but in the subtle symphony of aligned experience. Doors opened without knocking, hearts softened without persuasion, and abundance flowed without demand. His life had become a living prayer, and the universe answered through the fabric of reality itself. This is the sacred alchemy that transforms asking into being. When your thoughts, actions, and energy align with the essence of your desires, you no longer chase manifestation. You become it. The universe responds not to what you say you want, but to what you are. Watch how your life changes when you shift from speaking your truth to becoming it. Notice how reality rearranges itself around your aligned presence. This is the power of embodied prayer, when your very existence becomes the request. Sacred practice. As dawn breaks each morning, pause and ask yourself, if my life is the prayer today, what am I praying for? Then let every step, every interaction, every moment of silence radiate that intention. Your being becomes the prayer, and the universe cannot help but respond. Move through your day with the grace of one who knows their very presence is a sacred offering. Let your actions flow from this space of conscious intention, transforming mundane moments into holy communion with the divine. When you walk as prayer. When you speak, let your words carry the vibration of your deepest truth. In the quiet spaces between breaths, feel yourself as a living channel through which universal wisdom flows. This is how you turn your existence into a continuous act of creation. Chapter 27. Creating without speaking. In the soft light of dawn, Agnes stood before her workbench, sketches scattered across its surface like fallen leaves. For years, she had planned each sculpture meticulously, believing that precision would lead to perfection. Her fingers traced the edges of detailed drawings that had become more prison than guide. You too have lived within the confines of mental preparation, believing that thought must precede creation. Yet the universe whispers of a deeper way, one that flows from the wellspring of silent knowing. When you release the need to plan every detail, you open yourself to the wisdom that has always lived in your hands, your heart, your very being. The creative force of the universe does not sketch before shaping worlds. It moves with divine impulse, allowing form to emerge from formlessness. This same power flows through you, waiting only for the permission of your surrender. Agnes set aside her pencils and closed her eyes. Her hands touched the cool clay, and for the first time she allowed herself to feel rather than think. Beneath her fingers, the material responded to an intelligence beyond mind, a knowing that lived in the space between heartbeats. As her hands moved in the silence, something extraordinary began to take shape. Without vision to guide her, without thought to direct her, she became a channel for creation itself. The clay responded not to plan but to presence, forming itself through her surrendered touch. You hold this same capacity within you. Your life itself is clay, waiting to be shaped by the wisdom of your silent presence. When you step back from the endless planning and permit yourself to move from intuitive knowing, you align with the creative force that birthed the stars. In the quiet hours before sunset, Agnes opened her eyes to discover a form of such beauty and truth that tears fell unbidden. There, emerging from the clay, stood a figure that no sketch could have captured, for it came not from mind but from mystery. The universe speaks through your surrendered hands, through your quiet knowing, through the moments when you dare to create without the interference of thought. Your masterpiece is not waiting in plans and preparations. It lives in the sacred silence of pure presence. Practice. Spend 30 minutes today creating something without talking, planning, or explaining. Let it come from silence. Feel the sacred pulse of inspiration as it moves through you, unfiltered by thought or expectation. Whether you paint, write, sculpt, or simply arrange objects in a pattern that calls to your soul, allow the universe to guide your hands. Trust that what emerges carries wisdom beyond your conscious understanding. In this wordless communion with creation, you touch the infinite source that breathes life into all things. Chapter 28. The Channel Opens. In a humble workshop at the edge of a sleeping village, Harold bent over his workbench, surrounded by fragments of metal and wood. Night after night, strange visions would visit him in dreams, blueprints that made no sense to his waking mind, yet called to be brought into form. You too have felt this calling. Ideas that arrive unbidden, inspirations that seem to come from somewhere beyond thought. These are not mere imaginings, but divine downloads seeking expression through you. When Harold tried to analyze these dreams, to make them fit within his understanding, they would slip away like water through his fingers. Only when he surrendered his need to comprehend did his hands begin to move with certainty, guided by a wisdom beyond his own. The universe speaks through your dreams, your intuitions, your inexplicable knowledge. Yet so often you dismiss these whispers because they don't align with what your mind believes possible. In doing so, you close the channel through which magic flows. Harold's breakthrough came not through effort but through trust. As his village faced a devastating drought, he awoke one night with a vision of an unusual water-finding device. Instead of questioning or resisting, he simply allowed his hands to create what his dreams had shown. The device he built seemed to defy logic, a combination of copper and crystal that responded to underground streams. When the village's wells ran dry, Harold's invention led them to a hidden spring that saved them all. This is the power of becoming a clear channel. The universe does not require you to understand its methods, only to trust its guidance and allow yourself to be used as its instrument. In Harold's second encounter with divine inspiration, he discovered that his role was not creator, but vessel. The inventions that flowed through him carried a wisdom far beyond his own understanding. He had simply learned to step aside and let the universe work through his willing hands. You are such a vessel, a channel through which the infinite can express itself in finite form. Your only task is to remain clear, receptive, and willing to be used by something greater than yourself. The practice of silence clears this channel. When you still hear the endless chatter of your mind, you create space for divine inspiration to enter. Like Harold, you need not understand everything you're guided to do. You need only remain open and willing to be moved by the intelligence that moves worlds. Sacred practice. Meditate in silence for 10 minutes, allowing your breath to become your only focus. Let the endless thoughts that usually occupy your mind drift away like clouds passing through a vast sky. When your inner space feels clear and receptive, take your journal and write this sacred question. If I were a channel, what wants to flow through me? Do not analyze or judge what emerges. Simply let your hand move across the page, trusting that divine wisdom seeks expression through you. Let the response surprise you, for often the universe speaks most clearly when we release all expectations and surrender to its gentle guidance. Chapter 29, You Are the Response. In a small cottage filled with morning light, Mildred sat in her rocking chair, her weathered hands folded in her lap. For decades she had brought new life into the world, yet only now did she understand the deeper truth of her calling. You too carry this sacred mystery within you. Like Mildred, you have been the answer to prayers you never heard spoken. Your presence, your being, has shifted the energy of rooms you've entered, touched lives in ways you've never noticed. When expectant mothers would arrive at Mildred's door, wild-eyed with fear, she never spoke empty words of comfort. Instead, she embodied the calm they desperately sought. Her steady breath, her unwavering presence, her deep knowing, these were the medicine they needed. Without realizing it, she was the response to their unspoken prayers. The universe works through you in this same way. While you've been searching the horizons for signs and answers, you've been carrying the very presence that others have been seeking. Your alignment, your peace, your joy, these are not merely states of being but frequencies that transform the world around you. One evening, as Mildred prepared her evening tea, a young woman knocked at her door. The girl was trembling, uncertain about her impending motherhood. Mildred simply sat with her, offered her tea, and remained present. In that shared silence, the girl found her courage. No words were needed. Mildred's presence was the answer. Looking back now, Mildred sees the pattern that was always there. Every time she thought she was simply doing her work, she was actually being the response that the universe had sent. Her hands, her heart, her presence, these were the channels through which divine comfort flowed. You are not separate from the power you seek. You are not waiting for the universe to respond. In your deepest essence, you are the response itself. When you move through the world in conscious presence, you become the answer to prayers you may never hear spoken. Sacred practice. Stand before a mirror in a quiet, sacred space. Look deeply into your own eyes, those windows to your eternal soul, and say with gentle conviction, "The response I sought is me." Let these words resonate through your being. Repeat this truth until you feel it awakening something profound within you, until you recognize that divine presence that has always lived in your heart. Allow yourself to fully embrace this moment of sacred recognition. Chapter 30, The Echo Becomes You. In the heart of an ancient village, Oliver stood before his life's work, a bell unlike any other. For years he had crafted bells that needed force to sing, but this one held a different magic. It responded not to touch, but to the very vibration of life itself. You have reached this same sacred threshold. Like Oliver's masterpiece, you no longer need external force to create ripples in the fabric of existence. Your presence alone has become a tuning fork for universal harmony. Through decades of crafting, Oliver discovered that true resonance comes not from the metal, but from the space within. Each bell he created taught him to trust the unseen more than the visible. Now, as he stands in his workshop, the great bell begins to hum, though no hand has touched it. It responds to the pure frequency of being. The universe flows through you in this same way. You no longer need to push, strive, or force. Your aligned presence sets everything into motion. When you walk into a room, before you speak or act, your energy has already begun its work. Like Oliver's bell, you have become so attuned that life responds to your very being. In the quietest hour before dawn, Oliver witnessed his creation's most profound teaching. As the first light touched the horizon, the bell began to sing, not from any physical contact, but from its perfect resonance with the morning itself. In that moment he understood. The bell wasn't an instrument to be played, but a channel through which harmony expressed itself. This is your truth now. You are not separate from the force you once sought to harness. You have become the vibration itself, the call and the response unified in one sacred vessel. Your desires no longer need to be shouted into the void. They ripple outward from your centered presence. Sacred practice. Each morning, place your hand over your heart and whisper, "I am the echo. I am the answer. I am the resonance." Then walk like it's true. Let this daily ritual become your sacred communion with universal harmony. As you move through your day, embody the gentle power of the bell, allowing life's vibrations to flow through you without resistance. Remember that you need not force or strain. Your presence alone is enough to create ripples of transformation in the cosmic dance. If you enjoyed this audiobook, I created a free ebook version for you. You can download it using the link in the pinned comment. Conclusion. You have arrived at a sacred turning point. The journey that began with seeking now culminates in becoming. Through each chapter, each teaching, each moment of surrender, you have been transformed, not by adding more, but by allowing less. Remember how you once filled every silence with affirmations, every pause with pleading? Now you understand. The universe was never deaf to your desires. It was waiting for you to enter the frequency where answers naturally flow. Your presence has become your prayer. Your being has become your beacon. No longer do you need to shout your intentions into the void or wrestle with endless mental dialogue. You have learned to rest in the sacred space where manifestation begins, the still point of pure potential. This is not the end of your journey, but rather the beginning of a new way of being. You have shifted from the one who asks to the one who embodies, from the seeker to the found. The very energy you carry now attracts what once seemed to require endless effort and striving. In this profound silence, you have discovered what the mystics and masters have always known, that the universe responds not to volume, but to vibration, not to words, but to resonance. You have become like Oliver's bell, singing without being struck, creating without forcing, manifesting through mere presence. Let this truth settle deeply into your being. You are no longer waiting for the response. You have become it. Every breath you take in this awareness sends ripples through the fabric of reality. Every moment lived in this alignment draws forth the very essence of what you once sought so desperately. The power was never in the asking, it was always in the allowing. And now, in this sacred silence, you allow everything. If you enjoyed this exclusive audiobook, I handpicked this next book which will change your life.